guys, today we are going to look at the relationship between two lines on a graph instead of just one. So we should have been comfortable finding the slope of a line. Now we are going to look at the slope of two different lines and then figure out what their relationship to one another is. So let's go ahead and start off with our parallel lines. The notes that you're going to look at are going to be using these note outlines, so go ahead and print this out or have it, and we are going to follow along with this notes. We're going to look at parallel lines, perpendicular lines, negative reciprocals, and then do a few examples. So let's go ahead and do that. Parallel lines. So I'm going to draw out a graph here. Beautiful graph. And I'm going to draw one line on there. Let's just give it a negative slope. But instead of just one, I'm going to draw a second one. Now, if we look at this, it kind of looks like that they're parallel and that they'll never intersect. But what is a way that we can prove that these two lines are parallel? Well, we prove it with the slope. So we would actually know that they are parallel by their slopes. If their slopes are the same, let's say this is m equals negative 3/4, and we say that they're parallel lines, then this line would also have the same slope of negative 3/4. The only difference between this line and this line is where they are on the y-axis here. So we know that parallel lines have the same slope. And I want us to note that the symbol for a parallel line doesn't change. And our symbol for parallel lines is going to be these two bars straight up and down. So for instance, we could write that AB, for line AB, is parallel to line CD. So that means that they would never intersect and they are coplanar. All right, let's move on to perpendicular lines here. So perpendicular lines kind of follow the same principle where they are related by their slopes, but the difference is in how their slope should look. So let's give us a positive slope here, and then we're going to form a right angle with another line that intersects the positive line. So one thing I want us to note is that one of them is positive and one of them is negative. Okay, in order for it to be perpendicular, it must form a right angle. Otherwise, it won't be the same, so it won't work. So the interesting thing about perpendicular lines is that their slopes are negative reciprocals of one another. And we're going to talk a little bit about what a negative reciprocal is. Perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes. So we did talk about what a reciprocal was. Remember, a reciprocal is just when you take a fraction and you flip it. Well, a negative reciprocal is kind of exactly what you would think it is, where you take a fraction, you flip it, and then you make it the different sign. So for instance, if this was 3, m equals 3, the negative reciprocal of 3 would be this number flipped. So it would be a negative 1/3. We're going to look more at negative reciprocals. Just know the relationship that parallel lines have the same slope and perpendicular lines have negative reciprocal slopes, okay? So now we're on to negative reciprocals. Let's talk a little bit more about what that is. Well, negative reciprocals are just fractions where they are flipped and the sign is changed. So for these, you were going to say that they change the sign and flip the fraction. So let's do some practice problems. On number 1, where we have 3/4. So 3/4, in order to find the negative reciprocal of 3/4, we would change it from a positive to a negative and then flip it. So then it would be negative 4/3. So go ahead and try 2 through 5, pause the video, try those numbers, and then come back on and see if you got them correct. All right, let's look at number 2. So it's 2, and if we flip that, it would be negative because of positive to a negative, and then flip it. We always understand a whole number to be over 1 if we were to look at it as a fraction. So 2/1 would be negative 1/2. All right, number 3. This is already a negative, so it would actually turn into a positive, and then flip the fraction, our answer would be 8/7. And 4, 1, is understood to be over 1, so we're basically just changing it to a -1. And number 5 is 0. So what would 0 actually be? It would not be 0. It would actually be undefined, and let me explain why. If we were to draw this graph, let's draw a little graph here, and say that I have a slope of 0. Remember, a 0 is a horizontal line. If it's a slope, it's like walking on regular plain ground with no hill or incline or decline. So it's a horizontal line. In order to draw a line perpendicular to this line, we would have to be able to form a right angle. So let's form a right angle by drawing a line that intersects, that is perpendicular. So when we do that and make that right angle right here, you'll notice that this line is straight up and down or vertical. And anytime you have a vertical line, that would be undefined. Okay, and vice versa. So if it was a slope of undefined, the negative reciprocal of undefined would be 0. All right, let's use that to find some slope relationships between 2 points or between 2 lines. So we're going to use slope to determine if lines AB and CD are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So we're looking at their relationship. Parallel, perpendicular, or neither. They give us 4 points, and we're going to fill in these 3 boxes here with those 4 points. So they give us A, B, C, and D. So basically what we have to do first is find the slope of AB, then find the slope of CD, and then figure out between the 2 slopes what their relationship would be. So let's find the slope of the AB. So for AB, remember that we do the change in y over the change in x, so y2 minus y1 would be 6 minus 3 over 2 minus a -2. Solve your integers. 6 minus 3 is 3. Those become a 4, so 3/4. So in this box here, our slope for AB would be 3/4. Now let's find our slope for CD. So using these 2 points here, it'd be 3 minus 0 over 3 minus a -1. And our answer would simplify would be 3/4. Okay, so now our slope of CD would be 3/4 as well. So remember that if the slopes are the same, the relationship between the 2 lines would be parallel. And you're going to want to continue that for all of them, 1 through, I believe, 7. All right, let's look here. The last example I'd like to go over, this one's a little bit different and it has a little more algebra in it, but don't get discouraged or afraid of the variables. So there are variables here. We're going to use one. Our goal here is we're given 4 points and we're missing one of the variables. So they want us to find the value of that missing variable, which in this case is an x on point C. And the relationship between the 2 lines is that they're parallel. So make sure you circle that and keep a note of that, because we have to know that they're parallel in order to solve this problem. Because remember, being parallel lines have the same slope, okay? So what we're going to do is find the slope of AB, and then we're going to be able to set up our problem for CD. So let's go ahead and find the slope of AB first. So M equals 2 minus -12 over -2 minus -9. So our slope of AB would be, that becomes a positive, that's 14 over -2 plus 9 is 7, that equals 2. So our slope for AB is 2. Well, we know because they're parallel to one another that our slope for CD is also 2. Remember, they have the same slope being parallel. So what we can do here is we're going to plug in, remember this is AB, and now let's look at CD. So the slope of CD, we're just going to set it up. So M equals -2 minus x over -5 minus, whoop, that's a positive number, so -5 minus 6. Is that right? I'm sorry, I messed up. I wrote the wrong numbers. So negative 2 minus 6, there we go. Negative 5 minus x. Okay, that looks more right. All right, so now let's go ahead and simplify. Well, we know that the m is 2. So let's replace this with a 2. All right, so I'm just going to write it over here so we have more space. So 2 equals negative 2 minus 8 is, or negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8 over negative 5 minus x. All right, once we are solving for this, you are going to multiply both sides by the denominator, which is negative 5 minus x. So then 2 times negative 5 minus x equals negative 8, because those would cancel out. Using the distributive property, we are going to distribute the 2, so negative 10 minus 2x equals negative 8. Add 10 to both sides, we are left with negative 2x equals 2. Divide by negative 2, x equals negative 1. So our variable, our missing variable here would be negative 1. So what you're going to do on the next problem for number 12, you are going to find the slope of the given line, which in this case was AB, but on number 12 it's CD. And then you're going to set up the slope problem for the other line, which in that case would be AB, and then solve for the missing variable. Okay?